In this video, I'm going to go over the Dropdown tool from the Interface tab. The power of this tool is it allows you to do a drop-down selection within a macro to, for example, filter your data on whatever you selected. Now, one thing I want to show you before I drag this to the canvas is if you click on the workflow section, this is a standard workflow. However, when I drop down the drop-down tool, it changes to Analytical App. That's because we cannot have a standard workflow with these tools. We can only use them with analytical apps or macros. Since we're creating a macro, I'll create a macro output as well, and we'll have to build out this workflow as we normally would, and then we can configure the dropdown. So let's say I want to filter my data down to just the records in the South region. If I hit run, we'll notice that that filter worked like normal. Now, if I dropped this down, we have the option to go to both of these. Let's go ahead and start with the lightning bolt, because this lightning bolt is going to allow us to perform some action on our data, a filter. It drops down this action tool, which allows us to update a value. If I open these up, what this is going to do is we want to change south. So we're going to select the south option here, and you'll notice it also goes down here. This is the thing that will be changed when we make our selection in the dropdown. If I go to the dropdown and I drop down this list of values, we're going to manually set our values in this instance. And I want to feed all of the options from our data here. Now, we can add a name and a value. So for example, if you wanted to add S:, you can give a masked name instead of the actual value. So if I were to save this and hop over to this workflow where I have the macro on the canvas, you can see we have our four options. We gave this one a mask. So if I selected South, we would see the South records. If I select West, we would see the West record. So this is the first way you can use your drop-down tool, by creating an action and what string to replace within your filter. Now, let's say your data has many options, or they change over time. Setting these manually may not work. That's the power of using this magnifying tool. What this magnifying tool does is it allows you to feed into the drop-down tool dynamic selections. So what I need to do first is I need to figure out how to make all of these selections be columns in my data. And then I can feed those columns to this tool. To do that, the way I do it is I drag a summarize tool to the canvas. I'll summarize by region. And I'm going to count them as well, and you'll see why in a second. The next thing I want to do is I want to use a crosstab so that I can make all of those unique regions column names. So I'm going to change my column headers to region, and I will count the values, but this number doesn't really matter. When I hit run, you'll see that this converted it all into unique regions, and this converted it into one per column. Now I can connect this to the top of the drop-down tool, and when I click the drop-down tool, you'll see that I have now switched over from the manual to here. If I hit save and I go back to this workflow, we'll see that this macro has changed. Now we're feeding in dynamic values from our tool. If I select Northeast and hit run, we have our Northeast record. That's a quick tutorial on how you can manually set your values of the dropdown or dynamically set them. If you have any questions, please drop them below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.